Hi and hello everyone. I hope all of you are doing good there. I am Arvindran Tagarajan from University Science Malaysia, currently pursuing my Bachelor of Science in Pure Biology. I am here today to discuss the topic about the impact of genetically modified organisms in living things. So, do you guys know what is genetically modified organisms is? Yeah, so genetically modified organisms are also known as GMO is the organisms where their genetic materials are altered or changed to produce a more beneficial organism. These genetically modified organisms are useful to human beings, but at the same time it brings a lot of negative impacts to the human beings and also the living things. So let me move on to my first point. Genetically modified organisms can cause genetic contamination. Genetically modified organisms are organisms which is interbreed between their native species. These native species might descend in their native species population, and also it may cause alter in their ecological relationship and also behavior. Thus, in my opinion, we should control the production of genetically modified organisms. This is because genetically modified organisms can eventually reduce the amount of native species in our environment. So, researchers must only use genetically modified organisms in certain fields and in certain needs. So, this might reduce the genetically modified organisms usage. And in my opinion, when we reduce and control the genetically modified organisms production, we can literally give space for the native species to thrive in the environment. We can produce a more balanced environment. So, my second point here is genetically modified organisms can cause negative effects to human health. So, what does it cause? Genetically modified organisms, as we know that all the genetic materials and contents are altered. These genetic materials are altered by using chemicals and also pesticides. These chemicals and pesticides can be very harmful to human health. Thus, usage of genetically modified organisms in daily life can cause a lot of health issues. Genetically modified organisms can also cause a lot of problems. In example, the usage of glyphosate in soybean can cause kidney and liver damage. Thus, in my opinion, instead of using genetically modified organisms in daily life, we can actually prefer organic plantation. Do you guys know what is organic plantation? Organic plantations are plants where we grow in a controlled environment with a controlled amount of basic needs. These organic plantations are more useful and more beneficial compared to genetically modified organisms. As we know that organic plantations are plants where we can grow in our own garden in a simple way. So all of us should practice organic plantation to reduce the amount of genetically modified organisms usage in the environment. My third point here is genetically modified organisms can cause extinction of native species. As we know that researchers uses native species samples to produce genetically modified organisms, but if there is a minor mistake in their experiment, this might cause the extinction of the whole native species they use. So, to avoid this kind of extinction and also this kind of mistakes, I think we should use natural pesticides and also biological control method to reduce the usage of genetically modified organisms. As we know that biological control and natural pesticides are used to control the amount of pest. When we control the amount of pest, more crops and yields are produced. So we can reduce the usage of genetically modified organisms. And also, as we know that from ancient method, we know that tissue culture method is a method where we produce more crops using the single tissue of a native species. For example, Rainweed and also Stafford, they produces a lot of carrot species from the clump of one native species carrot. This eventually increases the number of carrots production in their country. So, in conclusion, I wanted to say that we should reduce the production of genetically modified organisms, and we should prefer and also practice the way of organic plantation and usage of organic plantation in our daily life. we should also reduce the usage of genetically modified organisms by using different methods such as tissue culture method and also biological control method to reduce this kind of genetically modified organism productions. So all these solutions measures should be taken serious so that this might reduce the impact of genetically modified organisms on living things. Thank you so much.